Hello, I have the Codex Space Marines for 9th edition and the Necron Codex here in my hands, and I'm going to be doing an Ask Me Anything. If you've got any questions about the two codexes, if you'd like to know what's inside them, if you'd like to know more about what's inside these beautiful tomes a week before they're released, then please feel free to ask me a question in the comments, and I'm going to go through and answer them. Now, what I want you to do is just start posting those comments down below. We're going to be sharing this to all of our different social media accounts, so that'll give you a chance, hopefully, to find us. We're going to send an email out to all of our mailing list people. But yes, we want to make sure that we answer any questions you have specifically about the codexes, and we'll be answering them. So leave your comments down below, and I'll make sure to go through them and give you those answers ASAP. Now, I was incredibly excited for both of these books. When they turned up on my doorstep, I was just over the moon about it. Because, obviously, as a huge Space Marine fan, and Eve being a huge Necron player, I knew it was something that I wanted to make sure, that I was adapting my armies and getting them all ready for this 9th edition of the game. So, let's have a look. I'll tell you some of the things that I am already excited about and eager about. First things first, Deathwatch. I know we've got a Deathwatch Codex coming soon, but I wanted to know exactly what was available for the Deathwatch inside Codex Space Marines. And what we have here is this thing called the Deathwatch Xenos Hunters. And the Xeno Hunters is pretty interesting. The models with this tactic make a melee attack against a Tyranid, Eldari, Orc, Necron, or Tau Empire. You can reroll a hit roll of a 1. Key point, melee attack. That's not everything. It's just in hand-to-hand combat, which is a pretty big change. And then we've got, after both sides have finished deploying their armies, pick a battlefield roll. Until the end of the battle, each time a model with this tactic makes an attack against an enemy unit with that battlefield roll, re-roll a wound roll of a 1. And then the only other Deathwatch rule that we have in here is a Warlord trait. The Deathwatch Warlord trait says, in your command phase, you can select one friendly Deathwatch core unit within 6 inches of the Warlord. Each time you do, pick one battlefield roll. Until the start of your next command phase, every time a model in that unit makes an attack against an enemy unit with that battlefield roll, re-roll a wound roll of a 1. So essentially you can change what the battlefield roll is that one unit is going to have. Now, it's got to be a Deathwatch core unit. The core units are a pretty big thing in this new edition. And I'm going to go through and show you what I mean by that. The core units that the Space Marines have, they have a lot of them, especially compared to the Necrons. We compared the two books, and we saw that the Space Marines have a lot more core than the Necrons have. In the Necron core units essentially are like Necron Warriors, Necron Immortals, Necron Lich Guard, Necron Toonblades, and the Necron Deathmarks. They're the only 5 core units. In the Space Marine book, it's pretty much every squad of infantry and even a bunch of dreadnoughts. There's no characters, but you've got your Assault Intercessor squad as a core unit. The new Heavy Intercessors are a core unit, but we can keep going into some more interesting units. For example, the Stern Guard Veterans are also a core unit. The Hellblasters are a core unit. Fun fact, the Centurions are not a core unit, so they're not going to get it. But the Relic Terminators, which you may remember as the Cataphracti Terminators, are in fact a core unit. So there we are. There's a lot of core units here. The Invicta Tactical Warsuit is not a core unit, but if we go here to the Dreadnoughts, you can see this here. The Venerable Dreadnought is a core unit, as is in fact all the other types of Dreadnoughts, including the Redemptor. So the Space Marines have a lot of core units that they can pull from. I want to remind you again, if you've got questions, please leave them down below. I'm going to go through and pick your questions and answer them for you. So I'd love to hear what you have to say so that we can help you find anything out. Maybe you want to know what the points costs are of something. I know a lot of people were interested in the new points cost for the new Heavy Intercessors, so I can show you that. Let's skip ahead and show you where that is right here. And you can see here the troops. There they are. The Heavy Intercessors are 28 points each, and you have to pay extra for the additional weapons. One of the things I love about the new Codex is that the points costs for everything are kind of included. All the weapons, there's no like looking up the cost of a bolt pistol and finding out it's 0 points, but then a bolt gun is 1 point or whatever. You actually have everything just comes with all its equipment. But the Executioner Heavy Bolter is +10, a regular Heavy Bolter is +10, and a Hellstorm Heavy Bolter is +10. So basically, you're just going to pay 28 points model, and then pay an extra 10 if you're going to add that heavy weapon. A lot of people are interested in Scouts. Scouts are a core unit. I can show you that here. But they're not a troop choice anymore. If if you look here, you can see they're now an elite choice. So that's a big change. And they only have 1 wound. I know some people wondering if they get 1 or 2 wounds, but scouts only have 1 wound. I can actually see people not really playing scouts anymore. I think the reason taken before was they were a cheap squad that you could have with snipers and a heavy bolter. Speaking of which, stratagems have completely changed. And the heavy bolter stratagem is pretty interesting now, as is the missile launcher flak shot stratagem. So I'm going to find that. They changed the book around, so it's kind of hard to remember where everything is. The stratagems are back here. So you've got the Hellfire Shells. When an Adeptus Astartes infantry fires its 1 command point with any of the types of heavy bolter, you can make 1 attack with that weapon this phase, but if a hit is scored, it's D3 mortal wounds, and it ends. But if it shoots against a monster, it's 3 mortal wounds. That's pretty cool, a little bit more powerful. But the flak missile only works against aircraft, not all things with the fly keyword. I know I had a really cool stratagem going on for a while where I was doing double D3 mortal wounds with my Space Wolves, and that's not really an option anymore, so that's completely changed. So I've got a question from Coach Coco. Auras have all changed now too, right? Yes, Coach Coco, the auras have all changed. Auras now pretty much only affect core units. So if I look here, the Lieutenant in Reaver Army with his Lieutenant in Reaver Armor with his tactical precision. While a friendly chapter core unit is within 6 inches of this model, every time a model in the unit makes an attack, reroll a wound roll of a 1. And what I really loved was the inclusion of the upgraded characters. So you can kind of like design your own special characters. This is really cool. And they introduced this in Psychic Awakening, but you've got things like the Master of Sanctity and the Chapter Master. The big change here is if you include one of these characters, they kind of have to be your warlord. Like rank matters now. So basically if you have a Chapter Master, unless you've got a higher ranked character, the Chapter Master will be the warlord. So that's pretty interesting. You also can't have 2 of the same thing. So for example, you can't have 2 captains, but you can have a Chapter Master and a captain, which I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah, that was pretty huge. So let me have a look at the Chapter Master. I really like this. In your command phase, select 1 friendly core or character within 6 inches model. Until the next command phase, every time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the hit roll. I love that wording. There's no more of that weird, like, well, it's got -1 to hit, so it doesn't get to roll that one. None of that. You can re-roll. You don't have to re-roll, but you can re-roll it if you want to, whether it's a hit or a miss. I really like the Chapter Master. Like, it's funny, I actually really want to play this in a drop pod with a bunch of Devastators with multi-melters, because I think that would just be hysterical to use. So if you've got any other questions, more than happy to answer them. I've got the Necron Codex and the Space Marine Codex. So I'll just show you some of the things that I found pretty interesting. Squad sizes of the new things, the Vanguard Space Marines, if you remember that, we got the new suppressors. So like an intercessor, the heavy intercessor, we can have a squad of 10. That's pretty cool. And if it's got 6 or more models, it goes up to a power rating of 14 instead of 7. And then the war gear options, if no model is equipped with a heavy bolter, you can take one of the following options. And so they can either have a Hellstorm bolt rifle for everybody or an Executioner bolt rifle for everybody. And for every 5 models, 1 heavy bolt rifle can be replaced with a heavy bolter, a heavy Hellstorm heavy bolter, or a heavy Stalker bolt rifle, right? Or the Executioner heavy bolt rifle, I'm sorry. So basically what you can do here is you can have a squad of 10 heavy intercessors, and you can get 2 heavy bolters in that squad, which I think is pretty beefy considering they're a 2-wound gun now. And, you know, the heavy bolter itself is, what is it? A 3-shot strength 5... Oh, no, sorry, it's the heavy bolter. What's the regular bolt rifle they come with? They come with a heavy bolt rifle. So the heavy bolt rifle is a 3-shot strength 5 gun, and then the heavy bolter will give you a 3-shot strength 5 of AP, 2 damage gun. So long story short, I think the heavy intercessors with 2 heavy bolters are going to be a really good option. So again, if you've got questions, guys, please leave me the questions down below. More than happy to answer anything. The suppressors, this is the thing I was talking about earlier, can only come in a squad of 3. We've got the Eradicators here. You can have up to 6 in a squad. I really like that. The new Eradicators that they gave in Indomitus. So obviously we've got more of them coming. And you can change out the rifle. You can take the heavy melter rifle as well. So what is it? For every 3 models, you can exchange the melter rifle or heavy melter rifle for a multi-melter. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty strong. And everyone can switch the melter rifle for the heavy melter rifle. The big difference between them is at half range, the heavy melter rifle is going to do +4 damage instead of +2. So it's pretty good. And again, I've got the Codex of the Necrons here as well, so if you guys have questions for that, please feel free to answer them. I will show you some big things in the Necron Codex that people asked about. A lot of people are asking about the Monolith. Is it actually a Lord of War? It is a Lord of War now. However, it's worth mentioning that the Silent King gives you 3 command points, which would pay for that Lord of War if you thought about it that way. That's a pretty good way to do it. But also the Monolith functions a lot more like a Titan now. It's much more powerful. It's toughness 8, 24 wounds. It's got a 2-up regular save, but no quantum shielding, which kind of sucks. Quantum shielding is great. It's now a 5-up invulnerable save and ignores wound rolls of 1s, 2s, and 3s. So that's pretty strong. So yeah, so I really like the Monolith now. The fact it's Lord of War is a bit sucky, but you know, again, I can see people taking them, especially with the Silent King, because he makes everything significantly cheaper. The Locust Destroyers, it's essentially the old Destroyers, but they've just put the word Locust in front of them. They're pretty much the same. There's not too much difference there. The big change is the way Reanimation Protocols works. Now, Reanimation Protocols, rather than rolling a 5-up and then someone comes back to life, you actually have to roll a 5-up for every wound the model has and get all of them in order to bring them back. So if you kill my Destroyer, if I've got a squad of 5 Destroyers and you kill one, I'm going to have to roll 3 5-ups on 3 dice in order to bring it back. If you killed 2, I would roll 6 dice, and if I rolled 3 5-ups, then one of them would come back. It's a lot harder to come back, but that doesn't mean it sucks, because I know a lot of Necron players said it sucked. The good news is, they now have living metal across absolutely everything. In fact, every multi-wound unit pretty much in the Necron book has living metal. So that's Lich Guard have living metal, Destroyers have living metal, and that combined with Reanimation Protocols is actually pretty nifty. You can also design your own dynasty. You can give people a 6-up invulnerable save, which is pretty huge.
I got a question from Edward. He asked, for the Monolith bringing in a unit, in the current codex, if a Monolith is destroyed, the unit is lost if nothing else with the invasion team. Does the unit just go to standard reserve now?
So, good question. So the way the Monolith works now is very, very different. I'll explain it. The Monolith has an Eternity Gate. If the Monolith remains stationary in its movement phase, then in the reinforcement step of the movement phase, it can summon a unit. It will summon a Dynasty Core Infantry unit. I did mention earlier there are only 5 of those from your army that is in strategic reserves. So essentially, if the Monolith dies, the unit won't die because it's just in strategic reserves. You can set that unit up anywhere on the battlefield within 3 inches of the Monolith and not within engagement range of enemy models. You can actually come in 2 inches away from somebody. Now, considering Lich Guard are a core unit now, and Lich Guard have a 4-up invulnerable save, and essentially a 2-up regular save, I think, because of what their shields do, you can really give the hurt on somebody. Pay a command point, get your Lich Guard in strategic reserve, big squad of 10, and then pow, bring them out and smack somebody really hard with them. So yeah, so the Monolith is really, really strong for that power now. There's even a stratagem, I think, that lets you bring in 2 units, which is pretty cool from one Monolith. Trying to remember exactly how that one works. Dimensional Corridor, use it at the start of the movement phase. It's 1 command point, pick a core infantry unit, Lich Guard. That is on the battlefield, remove the unit from the battlefield in the reinforcement step, and then set the unit back up anywhere that is 3 inches away from the Monolith and 9 inches away from enemy models. So you can teleport a unit off the battlefield to the Monolith. So that's pretty good. I can see people moving their Monoliths on top of objectives. They're hard to remove now, and then bring them out. A lot of people are complaining that the Monolith doesn't have an invulnerable save of any kind. I just want to make a good argument for why it doesn't matter. If I look at a Knight that has a 3-up save and a 5-up invulnerable save, and I can compare it to the Monolith with a 2-up save, the Monolith's 2-up save against the las cannon is actually going to be a 5-up save. Exactly the same as if I shot a 3-up, 5-up Knight with a las cannon. The -3 would take the las cannon to a 6, but then it would kick in its 5-up invulnerable save. The big difference, however, is the Monolith can go in cover, which would actually make it save 2-up, and with a 2-up, it would actually make it save 1-up, which would actually give it a 4-up standard save against the las cannon, whereas the Knight would still be stuck on their 5-up invulnerable save, even with the +1, because that a 3-up would become a 2-up. So I hope I've explained that well enough, but the long and short is, it's just different. I don't think it's necessarily worse. Now, yes, it is going to be worse against things like Melter. That is definitely going to have an impact, but against most guns in the game, it should be fine. Any other questions you've got, please put them in the chat. I can see there's one here. I've got Carl Davis says, my wife and I have just started playing. She's playing Salamanders, I'm playing Necrons. Is there anything in the Space Marine book specifically for Salamanders? There absolutely is. So I'll give you some Salamander stuff. Let's have a look here. Now, I suspect we're going to see a Salamander supplement at some point. There's special rules. Every time a unit with this tactic is selected to shoot or fight, reroll 1 wound roll when resolving that unit's attacks. I want to point out that that really benefits powerful units with smaller numbers of models in them. So, for example, if you play Dreadnoughts and you've got lots of Dreadnoughts, that's going to be great because you've only got one model. So that one model is going to make his minimal attacks and reroll the wound. And then every time an attack with an armor penetration of -1 is allocated to a model with this tactic, the attack has an armor penetration of 0 instead. That's pretty good. There's a lot of AP -1 guns, and they all become AP -0, so that's pretty strong. So that's one. And then I don't believe there are any Salamander dedicated stratagems yet. In fact, I don't believe I've seen any specific stratagems for any of the chapters. I suspect we'll see those in the supplement books. There is, however, a Salamander Warlord trait. Add 2 to the strength characteristic of this Warlord, which is pretty strong. Makes your Warlord have a strength of 6. To put that in perspective, if you were to get the new Primaris Space Marine Captain, and he was using his Mastercrafted Power Sword that gives him +1 strength, so he would actually have a strength of 7 in close combat as a Salamander, which I think is incredibly strong. Or if you gave him a Thunder Hammer, if you use maybe a different type of captain, or maybe even the Primaris Captain with a Power Fist, which is one of the options that he can have. The Primaris Captain with the Power Fist will be strength 12. So there you go. Pretty beefy kind of guy there. So I like that one. I've got some more questions coming in here. Wow, there's a lot of them coming in. This one says, should have basic army discipline and traits salamanders. I'm looking to make a Mephrit dynasty army. What are the necessary units for that? Okay, so we've got some good Necron questions coming in. So Mephrit, I mean, the basic unit is going to be the same for everybody. The Mephrit dynasty is going to benefit you for shooting, obviously. So the Mephrit benefits are add 3 inch to the range characteristic of ranged weapons, not counting pistols that models have. And every time a model with this code makes a ranged attack, within half range, the AP characteristic of the attack is improved by 1. They've also got these new protocols. There's basically 6 protocols, and you're going to assign 5 of them to a different turn of the game. So you might say Protocol 2 is active in turn 1, Protocol 3 is active in turn 2. You get 6 to choose from, and you have to choose 5, and you can't pick the same one twice. Then each protocol gives you 2 benefits, and each dynasty favors 1. So the Mephrit dynasty favors the Protocol of the Vengeful Stars. So if I go to the Vengeful Stars, this is essentially an aura ability that will only affect models around characters. So when I go to the protocol here, bear with me, just a new book. It's always hard to find the new rules, but I'll find you your protocols. The Vengeful Stars is, as you can guess, a shooting one. So the Vengeful Stars, here it is. You pick one of these 2 abilities normally. So either every time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack, unmodified wound rolls of a 6 increase the AP by 1, or every time you make a ranged attack within half range, the target does not get the benefits of cover. If you're Mephrit, when you activate Protocol of the Vengeful Stars, both will be active. So you may decide that you want Protocol of the Vengeful Stars to kick in turn 1, so that at the very beginning of the game, your initial Alpha Strike is going to do a lot of damage. Or you might want it to be on turn 2, giving you a turn to move into position with your Ghost Arcs, let your Necron Warriors jump out, and then start firing. So there's a lot of good options there. Any other questions? Edward wants to know about the Night Scythe, and Carl wants to know what my Will Be Done can work on. So let's have a look here. We can start with the Night Scythe. I can tell you now they got rid of the Mortal Wound strat if you have 3 of them. If you were playing with 3 Necron Croissants, I can confirm that stratagem no longer works, unfortunately. There is still a stratagem you can do, but it's kind of sucky. It's called Atavistic Instigation. It's 1 command point. Your Doom Scythe, when it's selected to shoot, after a target has been nominated by the Death Ray, pick 1 enemy unit within 3 inches of the target. You can also select the target, and they have a choice of either bracing or ducking for cover. If they brace, vehicles and monsters cannot brace. It says if the unit braces and it's not a vehicle or monster, it takes D3 mortal wounds. So vehicles and monsters, they don't care. They can choose brace and there's no effect. However, if they choose duck for cover, then until the end of the turn, they get -1 from their attacks characteristic, and they can't fire Overwatch or set to defend. So this is really used to stop a unit when you're about to charge in close combat. I can see people using this, shooting a unit that they're about to hit with their Lich Guard. So that's that. And then the Doom Scythe and the Night Scythe themselves. The Night Scythe is 8 power level, 12 wounds, starts with 3 attacks in close combat. It's got a weapon skill of 6+. It's gun Twin Tesla Destructor, heavy 10, strength 7, unmodified hit rolls of 6, scored 2 extra hits. It's got movement of 50 inches. Supersonic, so it's going to move in that essentially just straight way with a 90-degree turn. Airborne, you cannot declare a charge with this unit, and it can only be chosen as the target of a charge if the enemy unit can fly. You can only fight with this model if it is within engagement range of enemy units that can fly, and this model can only make melee attacks against units that can fly. Hard to hit, your opponent gets -1 to shoot it. Just always gets -1 to shoot. The Doom side is essentially the same. It's got living metal, command protocols. Both the Night side also has living metal and command protocols. Doom side is hard to hit and everything, but we've got the Death Ray here. 3 shots at strength 12, AP -4 for D3 + 3 damage. So it's looking pretty good. When are we getting the Tyranid Codex? It's going to be probably Q2 or later next year. So we won't get it January, February, March. And we're not going to get it this year. That's something the Games Workshop already announced publicly. So we already know that. Let's look at My Will Be Done. So we'll go to Lord. No, actually the Lord doesn't have My Will Be Done. It's the Overlord that has My Will Be Done. In your command phase, pick a Dynasty core unit. So it's going to affect Warriors, Immortals, Lich Guard, Death Marks, or Tomb Blades. They're the only things that can be affected within 9 inches. Until the start of your next command phase, every time a model makes an attack, add 1 to the attack roll. Each unit can only be selected once. Worth noting, they also have Relentless March. Any Dynasty core unit within 6 inches is going to get +1 to movement and advance rolls. So that's pretty cool. Is that movement and advance or movement, advance, and charge? So let's just make sure I confirm that. Relentless March, +1 to move or advance. There you go. Oh no, it says it's just add 1 to the move characteristic. I'm sorry. So not move and advance, just to the move characteristic. Pretty good definition there. Can you use the Silent King in any dynasty? Good question. We've got Matthew Holmes painting Mega Knobs now. His Orc Lockdown project is up to almost 4,000 points, 3,978. That's a lot, man. Well done. So yeah, the Silent King, this is pretty interesting. So the Silent King himself, he has the faction keyword Necrons and Zarakans. So he's specifically for his dynasty. But it's worth mentioning that he's going to go probably in a Supreme Command detachment. And your Supreme Command detachment doesn't have to match any of the other detachments. So, in case, I think of these two books. I love beautiful Necrons as well, but these, I don't know if I can find them in the artwork page. There they are. So I'll show you that.